You've done the therapy, read the books, worked on yourself for years, and still, something holds you back. A pattern you can't break, a voice you can't silence, a feeling you can't shake. You blame yourself. You blame circumstances. You blame everything except the one thing that might actually set you free. The truth you've been avoiding is this: until you understand what happened between you and your mother, you will never fully heal. Not because she was cruel, not because she failed you, but because she became the blueprint for everything you believe about yourself. And that blueprint is still running your life. There's an architect inside you, one you never hired, never questioned, never even noticed. She designed the rooms of your inner world before you could speak. She built the walls that protect you and the cages that confine you. This architect is the internalized mother, not the woman who raised you, not the person you call on holidays or avoid at gatherings, but the imprint she left on your psyche, the mother you carry within. Carl Jung called this the mother archetype. It's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology, yet most people live their entire lives without understanding how deeply it shapes them. You might think you've moved past your childhood, that you're an independent adult making your own choices. But if you look closely at your patterns, the relationships you choose, the criticism you can't escape, the approval you desperately seek, you'll find her fingerprints everywhere. The question isn't whether your mother influenced you. The question is, are you aware of how you've internalized that influence? And are you willing to face it? Because until you do, you're not living your life. You're living a script written before you were conscious enough to read it. Let me be clear about something crucial. This isn't about blaming your mother. Your mother was a human being with her own wounds, her own mother complex, her own limitations. She did what she could with what she had. That's the truth for almost everyone. But here's the other truth. Regardless of her intentions, she left an imprint on you, and that imprint became the foundation of your emotional architecture. If she was anxious, you learned the world was dangerous. If she was critical, you learned you were never enough. If she was absent, you learned you were invisible. If she was enmeshed, you learned you didn't have the right to your own existence. These weren't lessons she taught with words. They were transmitted through presence, through energy, through the 1,000 tiny interactions that shape a child's developing nervous system. And here's what makes it so powerful. This happened before language, before memory, before you had any ability to process or question what was happening. The mother imprint lives in your body, not your thoughts. It's not something you remember, it's something you feel. This is why you can't think your way out of it, why affirmations don't work, why knowing better doesn't translate to doing better. Because the wound isn't intellectual, it's primal. The mother complex shows up in infinite variations, but certain patterns repeat across cultures and generations. There's the absent mother, physically there, but emotionally unreachable. Children raised by this archetype often become adults who can't trust intimacy. They sabotage closeness because deep down, they learn that the people who should love you most will ultimately abandon you emotionally. There's the devouring mother, the one who loved too much, needed too much, consumed you with her anxiety and expectations. Adults shaped by this archetype struggle with boundaries. They feel guilty for their own desires. They can't separate their feelings from others' feelings. They become caretakers, people pleasers, martyrs. There's the critical mother. Nothing you did was ever quite right. Adults carrying this wound become their own harshest critics. That voice in your head that says you're not good enough, that's not your voice. It's hers. Or rather, it's your internalized version of hers. And there's the idealized mother, perhaps the most subtle and dangerous of all. This is when the mother was put on a pedestal, seen as perfect, untouchable. The child never learned that mothers are human. They internalized an impossible standard they could never meet, and now they walk through life feeling perpetually inadequate. Which face do you recognize? Which pattern still plays out in your relationships, your work, your sense of self? Because until you name it, you can't change it. Let me give you the brutal truth. Your mother complex is running more of your life than you think. Do you constantly seek approval from others, especially women in positions of authority? That's the complex. Do you feel guilty when you set boundaries, as if protecting yourself is somehow selfish or cruel? That's the complex. Do you sabotage your own success right when things are going well because deep down you don't feel worthy? That's the complex. Do you repeat the same relationship patterns over and over, choosing partners who are emotionally unavailable, critical, or demanding? That's the complex. Do you struggle with your own femininity, your own nurturing capacity, your own ability to mother yourself? That's the complex. The mother imprint doesn't just affect your relationships with others. It affects your relationship with yourself. It determines how you speak to yourself in moments of failure, whether you offer yourself compassion or cruelty, whether you trust your own instincts or constantly second-guess yourself. And here's the devastating part. Most people defend these patterns. They rationalize them. They say, that's just who I am. But it's not who you are. It's who you learned to be in order to survive a childhood relationship with a mother who couldn't give you what you needed. That's not your authentic self. That's your adapted self. And the adapted self will never set you free. Jung had a word for the process of becoming yourself: individuation. It means separating from the collective, from the unconscious patterns, from the complexes that control you. It means waking up to who you actually are beneath all the conditioning. And when it comes to the mother complex, individuation means this: you must become your own mother, not in the sense of replacing her, not in the sense of cutting her off or rejecting her, but in the sense of taking back the function she once served, the function of nurturing, protecting, guiding, and believing in yourself. You have to learn to give yourself what she couldn't give you. If she couldn't see you, you must learn to see yourself. If she couldn't soothe you, you must learn to soothe yourself. If she couldn't believe in you, you must learn to believe in yourself. This is reparenting, and it's not a metaphor. It's a psychological necessity, because as long as you're waiting for someone else to mother you properly, whether that's your actual mother, a partner, a friend, or even a therapist, you remain a child. You remain dependent. You remain stuck. True healing begins when you stop waiting and start becoming. When you become the mother you needed, you free yourself from the prison of the mother you had. So how do you actually do this? How do you unravel a pattern that was formed before you could speak? It starts with awareness. You cannot heal what you cannot see. Begin by noticing your patterns. When do you feel small? When does that critical voice get loudest? In what situations do you abandon yourself to please others? These moments are doorways. They show you where the mother complex is still active. Next, you must learn to distinguish between your mother and the mother within. Your actual mother is a separate person with her own life. The mother within is your internalized version of her. The voice, the expectations, the emotional atmosphere you absorbed. You can't change your mother, but you can change the mother within. This requires conscious practice. When that critical voice speaks, you pause. You recognize it. You say, that's not my voice. That's the internalized mother, and I don't have to listen. Then you respond with the voice you wish you'd heard as a child. You offer yourself compassion. You tell yourself it's okay to make mistakes. You give yourself permission to exist as you are. This feels awkward at first, it feels fake, but that's only because you spent decades practicing the opposite. With time, with repetition, with commitment, the new voice becomes stronger. The old pattern loses its grip. You're literally rewiring your nervous system. You're installing a new mother, one who actually loves you unconditionally. For those of you walking a faith journey, this process has profound spiritual implications. Many people of faith carry an additional layer of complexity. They've been taught to honor their mother no matter what. Honor thy father and mother becomes a command that traps them in loyalty to someone who harmed them. But honoring doesn't mean pretending. It doesn't mean denying your experience. It doesn't mean staying bound to unhealthy patterns. True honor means seeing your mother as a full human being, flawed, wounded, doing her best with what she had. It means releasing her from the impossible expectation of being perfect. And it means releasing yourself from the need for her to change before you can heal. You can honor her humanity while also protecting your own. There's also this. Many people struggle with the concept of becoming your own mother because they fear it means they're replacing God as their ultimate source of love and comfort. But that's not what this means. God works through your consciousness, through your choices, through your willingness to step into maturity. Reparenting yourself isn't replacing God. It's partnering with God in your own healing. It's taking responsibility for the inner work while trusting that grace provides what you cannot do alone. God gave you a nervous system capable of change. He gave you awareness. He gave you free will. He invites you to use these gifts to step out of childhood and into wholeness. That's not rebellion. That's cooperation with the divine design. Here's what freedom looks like on the other side of this work. You stop reacting and start responding. When someone criticizes you, you don't collapse into shame or lash out in defense. You pause. You consider whether the criticism is valid. You respond from your center, not your wound. You stop seeking approval and start trusting yourself. You make decisions based on your own values, not on what others expect. You pursue what genuinely calls to you, not what you think will make you acceptable. You stop abandoning yourself in relationships. You set boundaries without guilt. You say no without over-explaining. You honor your needs as much as you honor others. You stop waiting for permission to exist. You claim your space. You speak your truth. You allow yourself to be seen as you are, not as you think you should be. This doesn't happen overnight. The mother complex wasn't formed in a day, and it won't be healed in a day. But every moment you choose awareness over reaction, every time you offer yourself compassion instead of criticism, every time you set a boundary instead of abandoning yourself, you're healing. You're breaking the cycle. You're rewriting the script. You're becoming the protagonist of your own story instead of a supporting character in someone else's. And that is worth every uncomfortable moment of inner work. There's something counterintuitive I need to share. Your mother wound is also your greatest teacher. Jung said that what we don't bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. The mother complex left unconscious will determine your destiny. It will choose your partners, sabotage your success, limit your joy. But when you bring it to consciousness, when you face it directly, it transforms from fate into fuel. The child of the critical mother becomes the person who learns radical self-compassion and teaches it to others. The child of the absent mother becomes the person who shows up fully present for themselves and their community. The child of the devouring mother becomes the person who masters boundaries and models healthy independence. Your wound becomes your wisdom, your struggle becomes your strength, your limitation becomes your liberation, but only if you're willing to face it. Only if you stop running, stop defending, stop pretending it doesn't matter. The mother complex doesn't disappear, but its power over you diminishes with every act of conscious awareness. With every moment you choose yourself over the pattern. You don't have to be ruled by what happened to you. You can use what happened to you as the raw material for who you're becoming. That's the alchemy. That's the gift. If you're ready to begin this work, here are concrete steps you can take this week. First, journal on this question. What emotional atmosphere did I grow up in? Not what happened, but what it felt like. Was it safe or tense? Predictable or chaotic? Warm or cold? This helps you identify the emotional imprint, the water you were swimming in. Second, notice your inner critic. For 1 week, simply observe when it speaks and what it says. Don't fight it yet, just notice. You'll start to recognize patterns and tones that aren't actually yours. Third, practice self-compassion in small ways. When you make a mistake, pause before you automatically attack yourself. Say out loud, "It's okay. I'm learning. I'm human." Feel how strange that is. Feel how different it is from your default response. Fourth, if you're in relationship with your mother, start to observe your interactions with curiosity instead of reaction. Notice what gets triggered. Notice when you become a child again. This isn't about changing her. It's about seeing the dynamic clearly. Fifth, seek support. This work is too big to do alone. Whether it's a therapist trained in depth psychology, a spiritual director, or a trusted community of people doing similar work, find your people. You don't have to do this perfectly. You just have to do it consciously. Let me close with the most important truth of all. You are not your mother's child first. You are your own person first. Her story is not your story. Her limitations are not your limitations. Her wounds are not your destiny. You can love her, you can honor her, you can have compassion for her struggle, and you can still choose freedom. The mother complex wants you to believe that healing means betrayal, that growing beyond her patterns means rejecting her. But that's the complex talking, not the truth. The truth is that becoming yourself, fully, authentically, courageously yourself, is the greatest gift you can give. Not just to yourself, but to the lineage, to your own children if you have them, to the people who come after you. When you break the cycle, you free everyone. You will never heal until you face the mother within. But once you do, once you bring that unconscious pattern into the light and reclaim your power from it, you discover something extraordinary. You were never meant to stay small. You were never meant to apologize for existing. You were never meant to live someone else's unlived life. You were meant to be free. And that freedom begins now, right here, in this moment of choice. The mother you carry within is not fixed. She can change because you can change her. You have that power, not the power to rewrite your past, but the power to rewrite your present and your future. The work is hard. The truth is uncomfortable. But the freedom on the other side is worth every difficult step. You are not trapped. You never were. You just didn't know where the door was. Now you do. If this message resonated with you, if it named something you felt but couldn't articulate, subscribe to Mindros. We don't create content to entertain. We create it to awaken, to help you explore your mind and transform your life from the inside out. Hit that like button if this video moves something in you. Share it with someone who's ready to do the inner work, who's tired of repeating old patterns, who's ready to break free. And tell me in the comments, what pattern from your mother are you ready to release? What would freedom look like for you? Let's create a space where real transformation happens. Explore your mind, transform your life. See you in the next exploration.